Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Now, today on the table in front of us, we have a Kershaw. Yep, another Kershaw. Now, a little while ago, I did a review on a Kershaw called the NORAD, and I really like that knife. It gives me hope for where Kershaw is going. This is the second of the 2 or 3 from this year's releases that really caught my eye. This is the Payout. This is also in D2, like the NORAD. But then there are some differences. Whereas the NORAD is not an assisted flipper, this one is. The NORAD has got kind of a chunkier design. This has got this really interesting handle shape. I love this knife. I didn't think, I mean, I knew I was going to like it. Yeah, I did. But I actually love it. And that makes me really happy. This is about 58 bucks. For $58, you get D2 steel in a super interesting blade shape. You get a really unique and fun handle with good ergos. It is a thoughtful and interesting design from Kershaw. Now, you know, for me, Kershaw, the name still elicits $25 knives from like Big Five. That they are trying something else makes me very happy. Now, you do pay for the privilege. Again, the NORAD, I think, is about 60 bucks. I think this is about 58. But hey, for D2 steel, with this much of an interesting design, 60 bucks is not, 58 or whatever it is not out of line. It just isn't. So what do you get? Well, as I mentioned, you get a really, really interesting D2 blade, just with a great edge. I have to tell you that it's got a little bit of a smile, but the grind is actually very good, very even, the length of the blade. All the grind lines are really, really nice. It's got jimping, which is just grippy enough to get your thumb on and give you some purchase. Although my thumb does overshoot it a little bit, but then it lands in this little notch right here, which works just as well. The handle itself is shaped so interestingly. Now, this is stainless steel. This is all stainless steel. These copper sort of accents, which are in the, as you can see, it's the one barrel spacer back here, and around the pivot, and around the pivot on this side. I don't think they're copper. I think they're just colored, but they're very beautiful. It's a really attractive knife. I'm going to say that this is G10, although it's likely FRN. You know what? It's FRN. It's not G10, but it's very nice. Just a little piece back here to give it a little bit of style. As I mentioned, I think this is assisted. Now, that is usually not my favorite thing, but, you know, it's not the end of all things either. And this is assisted very nicely, which by what I mean is, what I mean by that is, I can talk, watch me go, is that it makes it very snappy, obviously, but it's not difficult to overcome, right? So once you release the blade, it just, you can absolutely work this knife one-handed, which is very nice. It's got an interesting backspacer setup. The backspacer is in the middle here. It's open at the tail with just this one barrel spacer, and it's open up here. But there's a piece of this FRN, or whatever it is, right here in the middle. It's a knife with a fair amount of style. One of the places where that style really stands up is this pocket clip. This is a fantastic pocket clip, and the NORAD had a good pocket clip on it too. I would be very happy if this is an indication that Kershaw is starting to pay attention to what people want and is working on stuff like this. This is just a great functional knife. Now, this one is not centered particularly well. It was when I got it, but I've been carrying it for a couple of weeks. I will play with the pivot and see if I can straighten that out. You know, this is not a knife collector's knife. It isn't. But it is a knife for people who just need a good, reliable pocket knife. And at 60 bucks, it puts it at a fairly competitive price with a lot of other D2 knives out there, but from a company that most people know. So if you are, you know, you're sitting around and somebody says, hey, I'm looking for a knife. I got about 60 or 70 bucks to spend. What do you recommend? You could easily recommend this. And I would. And I have. You know. One of the things I enjoy most about it is the style of it. I really, really like that. I'll tell you what it reminds me a little of, at least the blade, is the ZT-308. As you can see, they have a similar blade shape and design, and they have the same maker's mark. I'm not sure if that's going to show up on camera, but the maker's mark here is the same on both of these. So whoever was involved here is involved here, and it shows. This is an excellent work knife in good materials. It's very reliable and very durable. I have really enjoyed carrying it, and one of the places where it stands out, I mean, it's just fantastic, is how thin it is. It is, what are we talking about? We are just over a half inch. I mean, just over a quarter inch thick, excuse me. Well, let's actually measure it, and we'll know for sure. This knife, at its thickest point, is 0.4 of an inch, 0.41. It's very thin through the handle. The blade stock, that D2, is also pretty thin, coming in at 2.7 millimeters. There we go, 2.7 millimeters. And since it is a reasonably high flat grind, it comes to a very nice edge. They did a great job there. This is a fantastic pocket knife. It really is. The little irritating things aside, the assist and the fact that mine's not particularly very well centered anymore, you know, it's still a Kershaw. Sorry, Kershaw. But it's not a bad one. And I love that they're doing D2 blade steel. And I love the way this thing looks. And I love the way it feels in hand. I really do. Let's do some size comparisons just for fun. Here it is against the ZT-308, which is another Kai, K-A-I, manufacturing brand. As you can see, the blades have a similar shape. Beyond that, there is nothing shared between these two. But you can tell that the Payout is a fairly large knife because the 308 is a huge knife. Here it is against the Para 2. And if we line the tips up, you can see that these knives are virtually the same length. So this is not a small knife. Here it is against the Para 3. As you can see, it's much bigger than the Para 3. And our old friend the Bug Out, just because habit, I guess. As you can see, it is much larger than the Bug Out. This is a good sized knife. It is a handful that, because of its ultra thin design and excellent pocket clip, is a good carry. I keep saying how much I enjoy this, and that's because it surprises me. Kershaw, again, is something that I left behind. They're good knives, but once you get into a certain level of knife collecting, you just don't look at Kershaw that much anymore. But if they're going to do stuff like this, and stuff like this again is the NORAD, I am going to start paying attention again. Not because I'll probably collect a lot of them, but because I'm always looking for good knives to recommend to people who aren't knife collectors, who just need a good, reliable knife. These two knives, at right around the $60 mark, in D2 steel, well-made, thoughtfully designed. This is Kershaw doing really cool things. That makes me happy. Let's weigh it out. Now, it is a steel frame lock, so I'm not expecting it to be a lightweight. And it's not. It's 5 ounces, which is pretty hefty. But again, it's a steel frame lock. But for your 5 ounces, you get 1, 2, 3.5 inches of D2 steel. It is 3.5 inches to here as well. So you get 1, 2, 3.5 full inches of cutting on 3.5 inches of blade. The grip area on this thing, now it's difficult because of the weird shape, but we're going to go ahead and do it from the flat line, is 1, 2, 3, and out here towards this end. So 1, 2, 3, 4 inches basically to right here. My hand fits very comfortably, and part of that is because of the way that it's shaped in. It catches you and sort of locks you in, which is really thoughtful and really well done. So what's the end? The end result, the end thought. The end thought is this. I hope that Kershaw does a lot of this, and particularly a lot of this. This is not assisted. This is the NORAD. I would love to see them move into this area of the market. I love that they're using D2 steel, although I would be more happy to see them use like 14C28N steel, which is Kershaw anyway. Anything other than 4CR14, 7CR, blah, 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 8CR, blah, blah, blah. Look, they've done that to death, and they're still doing it. You can still get a ton of their knives with steels that are steel, but nothing special. Yet here they are, making knives that moves them into sort of a new category. And I think that's the thing that makes me so happy. I wish that this was a ZT. Actually, what I really wish is that both of these were ZTs, because I would love, I mean just love, these knives in premium materials. And that to me tells me how well done they are. If I buy a budget knife and I like it enough that my first thought is that I wish there was a version in high-end materials, it tells me that they have done a really good job. Because I want more of it. And I want more of this. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you're looking for a good budget knife, the Kershaw Payout is a great way to go. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask down in the comments. We'll see you next time.